yesterday, Merrick Garland testified, and we played some of the cuts because he was lambasted pretty significantly by many of the Republicans that were asking him questions. We didn't touch on this angle, which I did think was significant. In particular, he was asked about whether or not we could label the Mexican drug cartels, which are bringing so much fentanyl. Should I say fentanyl or fentanyl? There's what fentanyl's the correct pronunciation, but I feel like everybody mispronounces it. So at some level, if everybody mispronounces it, do you just roll the way everybody else is talking?
So I believe that if you throw the fentanyl at it, it's like Tylenol, which would be O-L, and it's a Y-L. So I think you got to go fentanyl.
So this is, I grew up in the South, so there's all sorts of towns that are mispronounced based on what they were named after, and sooner or later you're just like, hey, we're going to pronounce it like everybody else does. But fentanyl, I'll try and get it correct.
But, it was invented in 1959 by Dr. Paul Janssen, and Janssen Pharmaceutical created a whole range of phenomenally effective drugs.
Yeah. And so what I want to say before I play this cut from Merrick Garland and also the mom who is dealing with children, her children that have died in the unbelievable response, callous in nature, from Joe Biden. We've said this on the show for some time, but I think that many parents are still not aware. And I would say if you're a grandparent, you need to be aware. Your kids can die the very first time they use this drug. And they may use this drug not even knowing that they are using the drug because it is being mixed in with all sorts of popular party drugs. So it's one thing out there, I understand. You might tell your kids, don't smoke weed, don't use cocaine. Like, you should obviously be saying all of that. And I do, I'm a dad. But there is a difference. Your kid is not going to die the first time that they smoke weed, okay? Your kid might die the first time that they use fentanyl. And they might use fentanyl, Buck, and this is what's terrifying to me, having no idea that they're actually using fentanyl because it is laced in so many other drugs, like I said, many of which might be party drugs. You need to be on your kids about how dangerous this is.
I remember speaking to, under the Trump administration, a senior DEA official about this, and just so everyone fully understands, there's the reason for mixing this in is that fentanyl is so easy to make. It's a 3-step chemical process. It's so easy to make that it is effectively used as a booster, a cheap booster for whatever the drug is. You'll get more of a euphoric effect from it. And the reason that they started to mix in or create, they would imprint these drugs, these fentanyl pills, so they would look, and carfentanil, by the way, so that they would look like pharmaceutical grade, is because of the belief that that's going to give you a more pure high. So the addicts want the pharmaceutical grade stuff, which obviously the cartels aren't making. They have very little quality control, very little understanding. They don't care, obviously, what all they want to do is sell this poison to people. And so they make it look like it comes from a U.S. big pharma company because the addicts think, oh, this is better stuff. But a kid gets this and has no idea what he or she is, a young person gets this, and they think, oh, I'm taking, first of all, maybe they're taking the pharmaceutical opioid, but they may even be taking a Xanax. They may even be taking something that the cartels are making to look like pharma drugs. One, because it's easier to move and sell to people, right? You're saying, oh, it's just Xanax. Don't worry about it. So it's so much more dangerous and such a bigger public health issue than anything else we have seen, just by the numbers. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
The people who are dying are young. We talk about it on this show, and I do think it's significant. Years of life lost. It's why if you go to a funeral for a kid, it feels so much worse than if you go to a funeral for somebody who's in their 80s. All of us naturally understand this. And so this is terrifying. And I'm going to play some cuts here that I think, again, we're drastically under discussing what ravages this is doing to our community. Yesterday, Merrick Garland was testifying, and he was asked about designating Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. Here's what he said.
Mexican drug cartels, should they be designated foreign terrorist organizations under U.S. law?
Yeah, I think it's the same answer I gave before. They are already designated in any number of ways and sanctioned by the Treasury.
Would you oppose some of us trying to make them foreign terrorist organizations?
I wouldn't oppose it, but again, I want to point out there are diplomatic concerns. We need the assistance of Mexico in this and designating.
Is Mexico helping us effectively with our fentanyl?
They are helping us, but they could do much more. There's no question about that.
So we have a very simple reality that everyone needs to be aware of. We talk about this because I understand, and Trump has given voice to this as well. Let's treat the cartels like Al-Qaeda. And when you look at in aggregate numbers, they're killing more people certainly in the United States than Al-Qaeda was able to, even with mass casualty attacks and 9/11. But it's a very different problem set. When you're talking about the Mexican drug cartels and combating them, what Merrick Garland says there is largely true. Let's we play this out. Okay, we designate them as a foreign terrorist organization. Are we going to start sending Apache gunships into Mexican airspace? Just say, sorry, we're going for it. What intelligence networks do we have on the ground that we think can actually penetrate the cartels as effectively as Mexican counterparts and the federal police? And then you have the perhaps even bigger problem of the cartels are probably all in more powerful than the Mexican government. So the more you push the Mexican government to go head to head with the cartels, the more likely the situation that you'll have something that'll approximate a narco civil war going on inside of Mexico that will cause tens of thousands of people to lose their lives, mostly civilians. So it's a very challenging problem set, right? So the first step of designating them as a foreign terrorist organization, we think, oh, all right, well, now we'll have drones, and whoever's running the Sinaloa cartel, we'll just blow them up with a Predator drone. You're going to have to do that in Mexico. The Mexican government's not going to be happy about this. So there are challenges that come to bear right away with that designation that I have to see what they think the advantage would be from that designation versus all the Treasury and other designations that already exist.
The first step would be obviously securing the southern border, which is something we could actually control and continue not to do. But I want to play this, and then I want us to react to it when we come back, because this is Joe Biden, who is discussing Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was referencing a mom of two. We're going to get her audio. She was just on Harris Faulkner, who has lost her kids to fentanyl. And here is Joe Biden. I want you to listen carefully. He laughs at the end of this discussion about this mother who has lost two kids. Listen.
A little bit of more Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way. Isn't she amazing? Ooh. Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably, but she was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost two kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. Look, folks. Anyway, I don't want to get started.
Can we just cut like that audio one more time? When we come back, we'll play it for you again. Joe Biden laughing, you heard him there, about a mother of two losing her children to fentanyl. This is Joe Biden, who claims to care so much about all the kids out there, who says you never get over the loss of a child, laughing at that mother who is trying to warn parents all over the country about the dangers of fentanyl and who just lost two of her own children to that drug. Joe Biden laughing.
I just don't think that Joe Biden is the person that the Democrats have pretended he is for a very long time, which is this very empathetic, cuddly, grandfatherly figure. I think he's got an empty soul, and he's a politician who comes from the Democrat machine who will say whatever he can say at any moment in time. And his whole "I'm one of the folks" act is just that. It's an act. I don't think he really cares. I think he's got more important people always in his mind than the working folks that he talks about. But we'll come back into this, Clay. I know we'll have the audio. We'll let the mother speak for herself and tell us what she thinks about the president's comments.
a little bit of more Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way. Isn't she amazing? Ooh. Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably, but I've read. She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. Look, folks. Anyway, I don't want to get started.
So Biden laughing there, and this was when it was brought up that Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of Congress, had said that Joe Biden is responsible, or his policies are responsible for the deaths of 2 young men. And here is the mother responding to the Biden response. Play it.
Just what a horrible human being. How can he sit there and joke about it? You know, he thought he was with a room full of Democrats and, you know, he's amongst friends and they could all yuck it up. What kind of a person does that? I mean, somebody asked me, oh, you know, did he just like misspeak? I'm like, this shows his heart. You don't have to think about what you say in a moment like this. And to me, it's like it shows this is why he just opened the border so wide. He just doesn't care. He's completely heartless.
I think she's right. He doesn't care about this issue at all. And I think that showed the tone deafness that people who are approaching this with open eyes and who are paying attention and being honest. Joe Biden's been a phony his entire adult life, Clay. He manipulates emotions and says whatever he has to say. He doesn't really care about people. He only really cares about Biden.
So here is in particular why I think this is an awful look for Biden. One, you're mocking a mother who has lost 2 kids to fentanyl, which came across the border, and she is speaking out. I have watched her speak to try to warn other parents about the danger that their kids and their grandkids are under. 100,000 people are dying a year of basically fentanyl. And most people are just totally not paying attention to it. So she is doing her best to draw attention to the danger. If Joe Biden were going to joke about anything, you would think he would be particularly sensitive, given how much he talks about his son Beau's death and how that impacts him. And also the fact that his other son is a drug addict in Hunter. You would think if he were going to be sympathetic to anyone at all in this country, Buck, it would be to a parent who lost 2 kids to a drug overdose, given that he recently lost a kid and his other son is a drug addict. Yet, in front of the Democrat audience, his natural reaction to that is just to laugh off her criticisms.
The policies of the Democrats at the border. Now, look, you can argue that people, when they talk about politicians, they say anyone's responsible. Is a politician responsible for the deaths that happen in a war zone? Depending on your view of that politician, you may or may not say, I know the blood is on the hands of. You put on the following politician, right? Now, there is obviously a separation of individual agency from that act. No one's saying that the politician actually killed anybody in a war zone. But if you apply that same logic to what's going on at our southern border, the Democrats are lying to the American people about what is happening. They are actively colluding with the human trafficking organizations, the cartels that are moving people across the border because they're lying to the American people about what's really happening here. And there are a lot of people that are dying as a result. And Democrats view this as a price that we should be paying as a society. And that's just an honest view of what is happening. And people are being hurt by this, including this woman who lost 2 sons.